right, good morning YouTube. It is bright and early on this beautiful Wednesday, March 18th. We are currently just under 11 weeks out from the 2026 VDC, or the 2026 season debut for myself. So as per usual, we are starting the day with some cardio. So knocked off 30 minutes fasted on the inclined treadmill. What's kind of nice about living at the building that I do is that they kind of just have a very quiet gym. There's not a whole lot of like weights and stuff in there, honestly. They just have cardio machines. So it's very fitting for prep because I don't have to drive or drag my ass to the gym early in the morning. When it's cold, I can just go downstairs and there's never really anyone in there. So it's kind of a nice, quiet start to my morning. So yeah, got that done. Just gonna get some work done. We have a little bit of work to get done. I like to kind of knock off at least a big majority of my work block earlier on in the morning. That way the rest of my day is just a lot less chaotic. I find especially like if I can get a lot of my bulk work done in terms of managing my clients in the early morning while everyone is asleep, it just kind of prevents a lot of, let's just say, time mismanagement throughout the rest of the day. So I can get this done nice and early, and then I can kind of crack on with my meals, my training, and then just adhering to clients throughout the day as they need. But for the most part, I kind of like the system or the routine that I have going on in prep right now. Every day I'm trying to get a little bit better at, like, whether it's, you know, just the way I take care of my work, the way I keep my place, like the way kind of like doing every little task I'm trying to get a little bit better at, just to see how that kind of carries into bodybuilding, because it's very, very detail oriented. And as much as you can kind of get used to just going through the motions, especially in prep of just like checking off your boxes, I want to be checking off my boxes, but I don't want to be simply just like getting the job done. I want to be getting the job done as best as possible when it comes to everything, when it comes to my rest, my recovery, my sleep, my time management. And then obviously just with the business, it's important that I kind of stay on top of everything to ensure that that standard is upheld within, you know, every aspect of my life, not just one. So yeah, prep is, you know, prepping for the most part. I'm through the thick of it. I had gone through, you know, a little bit of that, how do you want to call it, like, self-doubt halfway through, where I was like, okay, like, have I put on enough size throughout this short off season to actually be in any realistic contention for, you know, better placing or, you know, a class win. So I had gone a little bit of I had a little bit of a back and forth with my coach to see kind of like what his thoughts were, and yeah, we're gonna stick it out. So VDC 2026, we will be on stage. We will be bringing an improved package from the last VDC and certainly from the GPC as well. So we're super excited to be showing you guys that, but we still have another 11 weeks worth of work to get done. So until then, we're gonna get some work done, and then we have a nice little shoulder day on the menu for today. So we are gonna take you along for that. So shoulder day, 11 weeks out. Right, what is up, YouTube? We are back at it today with good old shoulder session. So for any upper body days, I go through just a little bit of mobility work. I'm not going to show you guys everything that I do. It's like a 15-20 minute drill on the ground where I do some stretches, some foam rolling, some thoracic and lumbar extensions. So no one wants to see any of that boring stuff. So we're just going to get the shoulders nice and warm, and then jump into our first movement, which is going to be reverse pec deck. So I start with rear delts, or rear delts are first up in my program. Main reason being I think everyone's rear delts and medial delts are underdeveloped, and then front delts or anterior delts are overdeveloped, just for the majority of people. Not saying everyone, obviously there's some exceptions, but at least for my physique, that's what I need a bit more of. So we have 7 exercises today, 6 shoulder, 1 chest. So we're gonna make every set count because we are now 11 weeks out. So volume is starting to come down a little bit. Fatigue is high. We are feeling it. So without getting too long-winded, we're gonna finish up some more shoulder exercises just to warm up, and then we are going to jump into our first working set, or our first exercise. So follow along. So, as I said, every upper body session gets a little bit of mobility work just before leading into the session. Reason being is obviously just blood flow, injury prevention, and we want to make sure that the joints are nice and primed before we get into any heavy loading. So, although when it comes to rear delts, laterals, you're not doing a crazy amount of loading, you still want there to be blood in the shoulder girdle. And the reason I'm doing external and internal rotations is because I just simply have bad shoulders. I played a lot of contact sports growing up, so anytime I neglect this kind of stuff, not only does it kind of, niggle at me during my training, but long term, like I said, injury prevention is going to be key when it comes to ensuring my longevity in this sport. So every upper body session, non-negotiables, band work, mobility drills, and yeah, that is it. All right, so first exercise, as mentioned, going to be reverse pec deck. So with this movement, it's not overly complicated. I just try and keep a neutral spine, so I'm not leaning forward. And really, this is kind of a hard movement to butcher. The only cues I really try and keep in mind is I'm actively just trying to like scrape my pinkies alongside the wall as I do this movement. A couple things that I kind of see done wrong with this movement is having a little bit too much of an elbow bend. So with this, it allows me to actually fully extend my arm out in front of me. And I want to keep that tension on the rear delt. So I don't want to crack at the elbow and move some of the tension either into the rhomboids or traps. I'm really trying to keep as much of a line of pull between my pinkies, elbow, and rear delt, making sure it's all aligned. And yeah, just not going overly too heavy. I mean, rear delts are a fairly small muscle. It's not something that you need to drastically overload to get some type of stimulus out of there. So I generally do about 2 warm-ups, and then we have 4 working sets. So, I mean, I connect quite well with rear delts, so sometimes I kind of just skip the second warm-up set. I kind of just pyramid up until I get to my top set. So 4 sets, managing volume for me is, really the biggest thing that I'm trying to pay attention to at 11 weeks out. So I'm not trying to, overexert myself on primer or warm-up sets, really just trying to conserve that energy for my working sets. So we'll do 1 more here and then get into our first working set. Okay, so that is roughly 2 working sets done. Rep ranges for this are between 12 and 15. So I try and knock off a 12, a 15, 15, and then a 12 again, just to keep the loading appropriate. But yeah, other than that, really with this movement, the only other cue that I like to keep in mind as I do any type of movement where you don't connect with the muscle well is essentially giving yourself a slight pause in the length and range. So as you come to the complete of the eccentric motion, you want to pause there for a good 1-2 second count. Really just overload the muscle in that fully lengthened position where you're going to tend to be strongest, recruit the fibers, and then initiate the contraction. It's something that you can apply to your contractile work as well. So whether you do little isometrics in the shortened or contracted range or the lengthened or stretched range, both are going to bias the muscles in different resistant profile strengths. But I like to incorporate a little bit of both just with my training, nothing too over exemplary, just a little bit enough just to get a little bit more muscle recruitment and hopefully stimulus, meaning more muscle, more gains. So we're gonna finish up our 2 last sets here, and then we're gonna move into our second rear delt exercise. So, all right, 1 more here, and then on to our second exercise. Okay, scratch that. So the dual cable station that I need is occupied, so we're gonna up back to those later on in the workout. We're gonna start with our second exercise, which is gonna be a machine standing lateral raise. So 3 sets here. Rep range is gonna be 15 on the first set, 12 on the second, 12 on the third. That's what I'm aiming for. And with this, I'm just trying to match my numbers from last week, maybe get a +1. I'm really not gonna be getting a whole lot stronger past this point in prep, being 11 weeks out. So as I said, we're really just trying to manage volume and fatigue as best as possible to ensure that my performance in the gym is being upheld. So yeah, let's do some laterals. That I've been thinking a lot about recently is kind of just like the limits we put on ourselves. And I can't remember exactly where I heard it. I think it was in a podcast that I was listening to, and it touched on, every limit that you put on yourself, it doesn't come from a place of truth. So if you look at anything, whether it's, finances, business, relationships, your personal growth, whatever ceiling you kind of have put in terms of, okay, here's the level I cannot exceed, none of that is really factually true. I mean, yes, there's going to be certain factors and certain circumstances in place that are going to be challenging, but really all defeat is mental until proven otherwise. So when you think about, just about anyone who's achieved anything great, if you were to ask them if they thought it was possible at the start and they told you yes, it's going to come from a place of delusion. And I think if you're going to be delusional in this life, it is much more beneficial to the individual to be, I'm not saying delusionally optimistic, but at least delusionally ambitious, in the sense that, like, hey, all of your overarching goals that you set out for yourself, regardless of how high they are, you're not going to attain them if you don't try and overshoot them, right? And I just think it reflects, a certain level of standard that you kind of uphold within yourself when you actually commit to giving a goal
120% of your effort as opposed to just saying you've tried. And I think there's a very big difference between saying you're going to try and do something and giving it your absolute all. When I say your absolute all, I mean like every ounce of your soul. If you want something just as bad as you, for example, want to breathe, you're going to fucking find a way to get it out, going to make it happen. And of course this is, you know, maybe a little cringy, but even in my own life, every time that I've had, you know, a certain belief about myself, it's, I mean, good or bad, half the time it's not true. It's just, you know, a perspective. And something that I was reminded of, I was kind of scrolling through my old photos from last prep, and a thought or a quote that I had saved was, if you want to change your perspective, change your position. So if you're in a place where, like, let's just say your goals are, you know, they just don't seem achievable, or wherever you're at in life and you're going through a hard time, or you're going through some struggle, and it just seems like you can't find, you know, a way out, or you can't find the light, change your position, right? Everything is based upon your perspective. So if you can only see one angle, change your position, and then you'll be able to see a new angle, and that will reveal either detail or knowledge that you were not able to see from your previous angle because you were so fixed. So be flexible in the way that you choose to perceive the world, and it'll just benefit you a lot. Okay, so exercise number 3, we have got a cable cuffed standing unilateral standing cuffed cable lateral. Sorry, that's a fucking mouthful. But the reason I use a little cuff as opposed to a D handle is it just takes some strain off of my wrist. So for those who have not seen this little tip in the gym, if you have some wrist pain or some elbow pain while you're doing your laterals, try using a little dandy cuff like this. Strap it around the wrist, and the less attention and intention you have to put around just keeping yourself stable and keeping things in line, the more attention you can put around the intensity and execution you bring to the set. So for those who have not tried it, grab yourself a nice little D handle and level up your lateral raise. It is hot as balls in here today. Lately we have just been getting plastered with like this teaser spring from Canada. So generally we have these long ass winters from like November to like end of February, start of March. But for like the last 4 weeks, every week it's been like super sunny for a week and then just complete shit weather and snowing for a week. So you get a little bit of hope, you think spring's here, and then you wake up and it's fucking 2 inches of snow on the ground and 30-kilometer-hour winds. So typical Midwestern Canadian winter, but starting to shine. Sun's starting to shine a little bit now. I find that, especially in the spring, I don't know if it's just because they turn the heat off a little early or the heat on, or they keep it on a little late, but it is fucking hot as balls in the gym when I'm training. And I always like to start in a hoodie, but I'm getting hot lately, so I'm taking off my hoodie a little bit earlier than I usually do. I usually take it off after like 3-4 exercises just for the end of the workout, revealing the pump. But now I'm like a set, 2 sets in, and I'm already tripping under the pump cover. So we are gonna finish our last set here, or last 2 sets. We have 4 working sets on the cable lateral. So once again with shoulders, same rep range, 12s and 15s, a lot of 12s and 15s. So volume is a little bit higher, but like I said, shoulders aren't very large muscles, so you don't need a whole lot of weight to stimulate them. You just need appropriate volume and proper execution. So 2 more sets here, and then gonna get into some more rear delt flies, some presses, front raise variation, and then just finish with the chest fly, pec deck. So that is what we got going on for the rest of the workout. Okay, so right now, pre-workout stack-wise, I'm doing a heavier stim, but I'm only doing a half scoop. So I'm using the Thavage raw Thavage, I guess. It's a stimulant pre, but it still has a decent amount of pump and focus ingredients. So, I mean, I'm having about 2 espressos in the morning and maybe an energy drink every other day. So caffeine-wise, I'm still trying to keep things moderate and not be so reliant on stimulants, to just trying to ensure that my sleep is as best as possible. Sleep is something that I obviously certainly struggle with in prep, especially on the back half. But what I was getting to essentially is pre-workouts, mixture of a non-stim, stim base, some sodium and some glycerol. Emphasis on the glycerol, as it is the only thing that actually probably provides me a pump right now, because my carbs are pretty low. They're at about 250, which for me isn't a whole lot. And then intra workout, I'm doing a scoop and a half of EAAs. So we got roughly about just under 20 grams of EAAs. And ideally, if I had my salt with me, I would do another crank of salt, but I do not have that with me. So intra workout, scoop and a half of EAAs, and this is just going to ensure that we are offsetting that recovery process, so that the second that I'm done training, I got these aminos in here, we're ready to start protein synthesis and preserve as much muscle as possible. As you guys know, in prep, that is kind of just the aim of the game, is to hold on to as much tissue as possible, as you're not really going to be building a whole lot of muscle. So I'm gonna start sipping on this. I usually start sipping on it about halfway through my workout, so I get my pre down down. I'll sip on my pre maybe for the first 2 sets. I know ideally I should have it in the bloodstream before I start to train, but I kind of just like to get the extra water in, so I sip on it nice and slow. I get it completely finished by the time I'm roughly about 2 exercises into the workout, and then transfer over into EAAs and initiate that intra/recovery process. So next up we have, just on the dual cable here, a dual cable rear delt fly. We're going to do 3 straight sets here. Simple, once again, 12 to 15, and then we're going to move on to an overhead press. So yeah, that is all. Okay, so dual cable rear delt fly. So essentially, obviously you got the cross cable set up. All you're trying to do is keep your arms straight, and then similar to a reverse pec deck, trying to just scrape my pinkies or the side of my hand here alongst the wall or the corners of the wall, while keeping the tension on my rear delts and those arms straight and locked. So this one, honestly, it's a little hard to minimize the body English just because you got the cables pulling you forward. I just try and stay nice and planted on my feet, that way I'm not really moving around. Anytime you're bracing with any type of standing movement, the more you can keep your spine neutral, core braced, and minimize the amount of movement or swing and momentum, the more you're going to be transferring that tension on the appropriate musculature, as opposed to using additional secondary muscle groups to assist with the movement. So make sure you guys are not cheating your movements. That wasn't 12. It's supposed to get 12, but keep in mind I usually start with this as my second exercise, so I have a bit more built up fatigue. So if we lose a couple reps, not a huge deal, but gotta make sure I'm tracking this stuff too. I gotta get like a physical logbook. For the last, honestly, year, I've been tracking to my phone, and it makes it easy, yes, but sometimes honestly I just kind of get annoyed with how much I pull out my phone during my workout, especially when it comes to like responding to clients. I try and keep it on D&D when I train, just so that I know that when I have this time, it's my time and I can use it efficiently. But duty calls, and when you have responsibilities or other duties to take care of, you got to be available. Or at least I do in my position. So we are currently on week 25 of me kind of going on this split. So obviously, when you start prep, a lot of people want to just start fresh and, you know, start a new split. At the end of the day, you don't want to change a whole lot of things when it comes to the structure of your training. You should have addressed that in your off season and then applied that into your prep. So if you've gone about it correctly, essentially you've addressed the weaknesses that you should have during your off season, and then you're essentially just trying to uphold those within prep. So if you have a particular muscle group, for me it was like upper body and to a certain degree my quads, that was the main focus. Nothing's changed in the way that I structure my workouts. The only thing that's changed is the volume, so the amount of sets and reps that I'm able to do in the workout. And obviously as you're, you know, later on in prep, that volume is going to be removed to reduce the amount of fatigue or to allow your recovery to be optimized, because realistically you can only train, you can only add in as much volume as you can recover from. So although you want to be that guy to like, oh, I train, you know, so hard and, you know, I do 10 sets or X, Y, Z, at the end of the day, if you're not recovering from it, it doesn't fucking matter, right? Keep in mind that you're only training as much as you can recover, and that you're trying to recover just as hard as you are training. So no fucking around. Okay, so got 3 more exercises. Seated press, got a front raise, and then just a fly variation. It's been a good day so far. I really like where I'm at in life. I like the way that my life is structured. I like the way that my days are structured. Right now, just like little things that I'm enjoying is just my routine, the standard that I uphold from day to day, and just honestly like all the tasks and chores and responsibilities that I have work related are things that I very much so enjoy doing. Like I get up nice and early, ideally before the sun is up when it's still dark. I make my coffee, have my Zins or my nicotine pouches. Very, very few things I'm able to really enjoy right now on prep, especially when it comes to like pleasures. So just having something in there to keep my sanity really helps. So morning coffees with my nicotine, and my post-workout meal, my diet sodas, really enjoy that one. And honestly, just like getting to bed early, you know, being in bed at 8:39, having a candle lit, reading a book, keeping my red lights on, all these little daily things that I try and stack really make up the composure of that day. So a day like today, I really am grateful for not only, you know, everything in my life that I have, but also just the way that I've built it and the things that I've allowed myself to enjoy and not enjoy as I do. I've cut out a lot of things in my life. Clearly, like in the recent past, I've cut out weed and vaping. So those are two things that kind of held a chokehold on me for a little bit. And I have, you know, in the past quit and then started up again. And I'm happy to say that, you know, for the last little bit, I've been really disciplined in what I choose to consume, not only physically but mentally as well. So all the pieces of content and all the things that, you know, watching or taking in on a day-to-day basis are very intentional, and to a certain degree something that I can implement or something that I can benefit from seeing. So keep in mind, you have the choice to consume what it is you want in life, and what it is you consume is going to make up your thoughts, and your thoughts are going to make up your perceptions, and your perceptions are going to make up your behaviors, and your behaviors are going to build your habits, and your habits are what going to build your character. So it's all kind of a domino effect. So if you can trace your happiness back to its root cause and find out what truly makes you happy, it just really aligns everything else in your life in a way that's going to benefit you. So that's your motivational piece of information for today. But I gotta do these shoulder presses because I'm yapping. So. Okay, so top set numbers matched from last week. For me, generally in a prep setting or in a cut, the first thing to kind of drop off in terms of strength is my pressing. So we're 11 weeks out. I've been prepping since 22 weeks out. I want to say my strength has held up across the board. So like all movements, full body, up until I want to say 13 weeks out. At 13 weeks out is when I saw the first actual regression in terms of the numbers that I have set for legs. And honestly, pressing has held up. Back strength, it's held up as well. The only thing that we've removed is deadlifts. So we subbed chest supported T-bar row for deadlifts just for an upper back variation. And yeah, I'm surprised, honestly. Like generally, like I said, first thing to drop off for me is my pressing, and so far it's held up I've had a couple weeks where it's like, hey, I lost a rep maybe, but then the week after or 2 weeks after, I got another +1 and +2. So things are very stable right now. I'm feeling good. The muscle that I kind of worked all year on to build is being retained. We can definitely see that from the visuals, right, the way that I'm looking, but also that's being reflected in the training data as well. As last prep, lost a lot more strength, so that is definitely a win in my book. So we got 2 more sets here. Yeah, 2 more sets, 3. We got 4 sets here total, so yeah, 3 more sets. The first set there, that was top set, do back off, and then we'll just do 2 higher volume sets to fry the front delt completely. So we're gonna get going with that now and finish up the last 2 workouts, because it's mid-afternoon now, roughly around 2:30, and I gotta be back for like 4 because I got some more calls I gotta jump into with some clients. So we're gonna have to speed up the rest of this lift. Back and I have stuffs. So obviously something happened during the workout. What happened was my battery died, and I'm not just making that up. What I'm going to start doing from now on, and I promise to you guys, that I'm going to start bringing 2 batteries with me at least every time I shoot these videos. So mental note for the future, I will not let you guys down, but yeah, let's move on. So it's been, I want to say, a good 3.5 hours since I've gotten back from training. I got my post-workout meal in, did some work on a client call, and then just did some editing, and now we are getting meal number 4 down. And then we gotta go do more steps, some more cardio, and then come back for meal 5, and then bedtime, or shower, and then bed. You guys kind of know the drill. But yeah, meal number 5, kind of the same as always. It's my tilapia meal. So tilapia, rice cakes, broccoli, and sweet potato. And lately, this has been my ultimate savior in prep, pickles and hot peppers. So I get 5 pickles, which is only 25 calories per meal, and then peppers I get roughly about 10 grams worth, which is only about 15 calories. So negligible in that sense, and adds a lot of life to my very, very low volume, boring meals. So quantities have remained the same since I believe my last YouTube video, which we have 200 tilapia, 150 sweet potato, and 75 broccoli with 4 rice cakes. So yeah, same old. And we're gonna get this down and then go do cardio and just shut her down for the day because it has been a long day. So I'll, you know what, maybe just take you along for this last or second last meal, and then that's gonna be a cap on the day because this is gonna be a rather long video. So tune in for next week's video. Once again, please feel free to drop down in the comments what you guys want to see more of on this channel. I am always open to suggestions and recommendations. So without further ado, this is my second to last meal, and this has been a day in the life slash not really, pretty much 3/4 of a shoulder day. So see you all next time.